Hey, before we start, quick note, this video is part of the Quit Porn Quick Start course. If you're jumping in midway or if this is the first lesson you've seen, pause it and start with the course intro and the first lesson linked below. These videos are designed to be worked through in that order, not binge. All right, let's get into it. All right, welcome back. Part 4. To be clear, welcoming back my tree, not you. I'm kidding. Creating new rhythms for a new life. And this is another one of the lessons. I know I tell you to spend plenty of time in each of these. This one, again, specifically, you could spend plenty of time on because this is the life that we're creating that we actually want to live into. And it's a life that's free from pornography because it doesn't need pornography. Rhythms matter. It's how we rewire desire. It's how we rewire our brain. We want to build something so that porn loses its relevance. And the idea is that we learned porn a specific way through patterns, through repetitions, through behaviors that got rewarded. The absence of porn use isn't freedom necessarily. It's just blank space. It's empty space, which porn can fill again. So we have to create new rhythms that support the new person that you are, that you want to be. So again, just quitting porn doesn't do it because it sort of creates a vacuum. There's this empty void, this space. Boredom is a big part of that. That's why we talk about boredom and alone time, because when you just have downtime, there's this place where you're like, well, I don't know what to do with myself, so I'll just go to this thing. Pornography is a regulator. It becomes a way to pass the time. It's a release. It's a reward in some capacity. So we don't want that to be any part of the new way that we are living. Because yeah, the reality is that if porn was meeting a need, even poorly, you still have to replace it with something that meets that need better. And if you're like me, you've probably experienced this in some capacity when you have like a really just unstructured or unplanned day that's outside of your normal routine. It's easy to slip back into it because you sort of go, well, not doing anything else. And this is common. This is part of the recovery journey for most people. This is part of my story too. I have to pay attention to when my days sort of feel aimless, reach out and make sure I'm well connected during those times. Rhythms shape identity. It's not just about habits, it's about rhythms. What you do daily forms who you are and who you become, right? If we say, I want to be a professional bodybuilder, your daily rhythm is sitting on the couch and not doing anything physical. You're not a bodybuilder. What makes you a bodybuilder is the fact that you show up and do the things day in and day out that a bodybuilder does. Whether or not you have the bodybuilder physique is sort of irrelevant at that point because you are building the body. You are doing the thing. So when you show up and you live as a person who does not need pornography, who's well-connected, well-grounded to community, then you are living in recovery. Because identity follows behavior, not intention. Like we talked about before, direction, not intention, determines your destination. So we're not just directing our steps away from porn, we're directing our steps toward who we want to be, who we are becoming. And repetition trains our nervous systems. That's extremely important. Because here's what we're up against. Dopamine responds to patterns. Our brain has this little way of going, oh, you're feeling dysregulated, you're feeling upset, you're alone, you're bored, you're nervous, you're stressed out. Your brain goes, well, let's just flood a little dopamine in here to get you away from that. Because the brain is an anticipation machine. It's trying to predict what's coming to keep you safe, but it can't predict the future, right? It only knows what to predict based on what it's experienced. So if you've taught it a pattern, you have to unteach it that pattern and teach it a new pattern, because when patterns change, desire flows from that. You can't think your way into a new life. You have to live your way into it. Remember that. So we're reframing how we look at this, because porn isn't just about pleasure, like we talked about. It's about disengaging from comfort. New rhythms must engage the body and the present moment. So here's some very practical, functional ways how we can do this. Screens, we'll say screens for entertainment purposes. Obviously, if you work on a computer, that's a little different. But screens typically invite us into a dissociation where I'm going to distract and pull myself away from being present in the moment. And it could be hours binging shows on Netflix or YouTube or whatever, scrolling social media. A lot of people still do that. So think about your relationship with your screens. What does a healthy you who doesn't rely on distraction and discomfort look like? How often are you using screens? What social media apps are you still on? How often do you use YouTube? What streaming services are you engaged in? Are you able to sit and eat a meal at home without a TV being on? Are you able to do anything without a TV being on in the background? That's an important thing to reflect on. And then I'm asking myself, well, what does the me who doesn't need porn, how does the me who doesn't need porn interact with screens? Another one is embodied practices. And this is things we do in our body. So if screens cause dissociation, embodied practices invite regulation. and that keep us present, keep us still, keep us here in our bodies. Very practically, here are a few things that do that. Movement grounds the nervous systems. There's a functional health practitioner I follow. He says that the human brain was meant to process problems or deal with conflict at 3 miles per hour. And what he's saying is that when you walk, when you're moving your body, you give your nervous system, you give your brain space to decompress and space to actually tackle those things in healthy ways. Breathing slows down urgency, like we've talked about. Urgency, when we feel like we're getting sped up, it can push us to want to just feel a little more frantic and act out. Thinking about breathing regularly. So if that's taking time during the day multiple times to just take a moment and just breathe and notice where you're at, notice yourself. That's a huge thing that you can do. Connect. We need to be able to connect well with other people in our lives too, because recovery isn't just about avoiding pain. It's about increasing your capacity to stay present. The new you, with the new rhythms and the new life, you are not somebody who needs to escape pain or discomfort. You can handle it. You can handle it. Piggybacking on what we just talked about, I want to talk more about the role of the body in recovery, because this is often missing and it's extremely powerful. Like, we have to get a good grasp on this, because addiction lives in the body. It's not just in the brain, right? Though dopamine and our neurological systems are firing to keep us going in that direction, those things actually live in the body. The nervous system is in your body. The brain plays a big part of that, but it lives in your body. Willpower fails when our nervous systems become overwhelmed, and that happens when we're overstimulated, we're stressed, we're anxious. So, like I said earlier, you can't think your way out of being stressed. You have to teach your body what to do when you experience your stress. You can't think your way out of being angry. We have to teach our body what to do when it experiences anger. Regulation is physiological first and cognitive second. So we deal with it in our bodies first, and our brains catch up. And I know that sounds backward, but it's true. A couple practical things. Sleep deprivation can increase impulsivity. You have to get good sleep. You have to get good sleep. Poor nutrition destabilizes your mood. You got to eat good food. And then sedentary days, sitting around doing nothing, not moving your body, they amplify urges. So here's what you can do. When you experience anger, the first thing you can do is take a deep breath, get some oxygen in, and feel it. Where is the anger at in my body? We talked about this in one of the last videos, but where does it live? Figure it out. And when you do, you can put your hand there and just take a few deep breaths. And again, just ask. Well, first acknowledge, what am I feeling? What is the feeling? That's anger. Okay, I'm angry. Acknowledge that. Say it out loud and ask, what do I need? So here's the structure that we'll hang all this stuff on. We call seeds. It's not just a list, but it's a way of practically attending to these habits, these new rhythms that we're creating. So seeds is SEEDS. They're very small things, right? Seeds grow into big things, but seeds don't immediately, when they're planted, transform into trees or plants tomorrow. They take watering, they take soil, they take good care, and then they, over time, become the big things that we recognize as the plants or the trees. So the first S is social or spiritual connection. This is consistent connection, not specifically or not solely in the crisis moments. So how are you consistently connecting with God? What's your spiritual practice like? And how are you intentionally connecting with other people in your community? What are your friendships look like? And again, if you don't have those, you're in the school community, please take advantage of that. Reach out to me. I can try to help get you plugged in. Nick can too. There's a book I'll recommend called Open Mind, Open Heart. It's about the practice of contemplative prayer or centering prayer. And that's so important, because prayer, we want to think about as presence, not just, oftentimes our prayer lives are sort of boiled down, like it's really just a way of talking at God, and it's less about being with God and less about listening to God. So practicing prayer as presence, slowing down and being present with God, and community as regulation. Connection is medicine. You got to remember that. Connection is medicine. The first E is education. And this is a couple things here. One, we want to learn your patterns. How am I continually learning about me, how I operate, and my relational patterns? You have to understand your own role in the addiction and your own emotions. And we have to replace those mysteries with clarity. So what am I learning about myself through this process? How am I tracking that? Am I keeping notes? Am I reflecting on that regularly so that I really am honing in on what's going on? The other part of education is learning about the thing that I'm trying to overcome. So if it's pornography, what resources are you engaging with? Are you reading some books? Are you listening to some podcasts? Are you going through some online courses where you're learning some stuff like this? The idea is to continually be learning about the thing that we're trying to beat, because confusion will keep you stuck. Understanding creates leverage. When you understand what's actually happening, you can take action. The second E is for exercise. Move daily, even if it's like a little bit. What I try to encourage people with is that, well, like I said earlier, the body is meant to process things at 3 miles per hour. I'm not telling you to start CrossFit, but you do have to move your body. Get outside, walk, breathe in fresh air, move your body. Movement discharges our stress hormones. When you're feeling anxious and you take a 15-minute walk, 10-15-minute walk, you will feel better. You just will. That's how our bodies are made to respond in those moments to stress. Exercise also improves mood and impulse control. So I'm going to say walking at a baseline, but if you can do some strength training, again, I'm not saying start CrossFit or anything crazy, but if you can lift some weights and engage in some strength training, that will go a long way. Movement is therapy that you don't have to talk through. Remember that. The D is for diet. What you eat affects how you cope. When your blood sugar is stable, your emotions are a little more level. There's less crash, there's less compulsion. You need to eat like somebody who wants clarity. So again, I'm not telling you to start a whole new diet thing today or Atkins or Whole30 or whatever that is, but think about what your diet is like during the week. If you are eating fast food 5 days a week, maybe 2 days this week you skip fast food and eat something healthier. Something small. Again, think about seeds. These are tiny, sustainable rhythms that we can do each day that add up to the change we want over time. We're not trying to plant trees. And then finally, the last S is for sleep. When you are exhausted, when you're tired, it lowers resistance. Sleep can restore your judgment. Even thinking about like when you're exhausted or spent out or burnt out or overextended, like in those places, like you have an easier time going to pornography, especially when you stay up late, because late nights sort of increase that vulnerability. Not only you're sleepy, you're aimless, you're restless, and that's an easy time for pornography to come in. So things like having a consistent wake and going to bed time and incremental things that just improve your ability to sleep. So a cooler room is usually helpful. A darker room is usually helpful. So maybe think about blackout curtains. Maybe you need new sheets. Maybe you need a new pillow. Everybody's got a pillow. We have a love-hate relationship with our pillows. You might have a pillow you really love. You might have a pillow that you tolerate. Maybe it's time to upgrade a pillow. I don't know. But think about ways that you can improve your sleep, because most relapses don't start with lust. They usually just start with exhaustion. So here's how we can do this. Designing daily rhythms. So think about like a morning rhythm, because this can really anchor your day. And like I just said, wake up at a consistent time, incorporate some light movement, even if that's like stretching or some like calisthenics. That's not like a heavy workout, but it is moving your body. I would encourage some prayer, even if it's brief, or maybe even just a grounding exercise where you're just acknowledging, God, I'm here, you're here, we're here, and you're beginning our day. I'm going to say delay phone use. I know that for most people, your phone is your alarm, but try to avoid going straight to that. Maybe that's a improvement that you can use for the S part of for the sleep part of the seeds, is to get a real physical alarm clock and not have your phone in the bedroom. That would be huge. I would also encourage you to delay stimulants. And I'm specifically talking about coffee. There's way too much science out there that says if you can delay having coffee by at least 30 to 45 minutes in the morning after you first wake up, it sets your day off better. You develop less of a dependence on caffeine. And instead of drinking coffee first thing when you wake up, drink a glass of water. Get stuff moving. If you can start your morning like that with a consistent rhythm, it will be transformational after 3 to 4 weeks. It just will. And then think about a midday rhythm. What can I incorporate in the middle of my day around lunchtime? And some easy things are a short walk. Get up from your desk, walk. If you can go outside, even better. Breathing, you don't really have to move from your desk. You can just kind of still be where you're at. Take a couple deep breaths, close your eyes for a moment, and just breathe. I use this as a great opportunity for check-ins. So I might call a friend, or I might text some people and say, hey, who can talk for a few minutes? And just check in where I'm at. And it might not necessarily have to be that like, oh, I'm checking in a relapse or something that has to do with pornography. It could just be, I'm checking in. This is how today's going. I just want to be present with you. Will you talk to me for a few minutes? Like, that's good. That's a sustainable rhythm. It could be your spouse. Doesn't have to be a friend. Anybody. And then finally, we want to look at what an evening rhythm can look like. And specifically as it pertains to protecting that vulnerability window late at night. So plan for unstructured time. Have your screens off earlier. That's going to help your sleep too. I think the last thing I heard was at least an hour before bed, no screens. And I think, was it 3 to 4 hours before bed, no more food? And then I even heard this more recently, half an hour to 45 minutes before bed, no more fluid, no water. So take some sips, but you want to limit your water and fluid intake so that you actually sleep through the night instead of having to get up and go to the bathroom. And if you're going to do anything before you're falling asleep, because you might be setting a bedtime and maybe you're just not sleepy, that's okay. So you can read. Reading in your bed is great for falling asleep or getting to sleep. Hopefully it's something kind of benign and boring, not like a horror novel or a thriller or something like that. You can do some breathing stuff on your way to bed, but the idea is that you want to prepare for sleep intentionally. So have a nighttime, have a bedtime routine. One of my favorite things to do, this is personal. My wife bought one of these Shakti mats, SHAKTI mats, a year or so ago. It's an acupressure mat. So it's a mat that's about the size of your back that's got a bunch of sharp, they look like golf cleats, frankly. And you lay on it for 10 to 15 minutes or longer. I don't know if there's a set time. And it is insanely relaxing. So go look that up. Why? Because evenings are when most men lose the fight. So plan accordingly. Digital boundaries. Filters will slow access. Boundaries will buy you time. Remember that. I'm not anti-filters. They obviously help people. I help facilitate some of those with current clients, but they don't stop you from doing anything because it doesn't tackle the inner motivation for why we go to porn in the first place. So filters are fine, but you can't like heavily rely on those. Like it's not as strong of a guardrail as you want it to be. We'll say that. Boundaries buy time. So when you set up healthy boundaries, they're in place so that you can recognize those and still maintain your agency and make different choices, not just sort of slam into them and go, okay, this stopped me, right? Like a safety net. We want you to stop yourself before you hit the net. But ideally, they would just create enough friction so that when you're tired or triggered, it slows you down. That's the idea. Remember, tools don't create desire for change. Rhythms do. Set up new healthy rhythms. The seeds part is important. The size of those are important. I want you to recognize that because this is about pacing, not about perfection. If you come out of this and you come up with a list of, I have 400 new big things to do, you're going to fail. One of the things that I love is that complexity is the enemy of execution. When you make things complicated, you are just setting up barriers between you and actually doing the thing. So make those seeds small, make those attainable, make those insanely practical. And here's what I'll tell you too. If you're not going to do it, then don't write it down. Write down stuff that you're actually going to do. Remember this, if you miss a day, that's okay. That doesn't mean you failed. We're still tracking toward our progress. And sometimes progress is uneven. You'll have good days, you'll have down days. But the idea is that we're slowly building more and more good days. Because remember, you're building a new lifestyle. You're creating new rhythms for a new life. You're not just trying to line up a streak. You're trying to find things that are sustainable. Don't start over, adjust, pivot, and then continue. So here's what I want you to do. If you've got the booklet in front of you, if you got the paper open, choose one habit per seeds category. And I want you to build a simple morning rhythm. And then I want you to design an evening plan with that. And then think about what's one digital boundary. And then I want you to share that plan with somebody. Those are 5 simple things I want you to do. Spend your time doing that. Number 1, choose one habit per seeds category, just one. Number 2, build a simple morning rhythm with those. 3, design an evening plan, whatever that is. Make it simple, make it sustainable. 4, add one digital boundary. How am I going to cut down my digital time or set myself up for success? Think about the evening. I'll just get specific. Think about how you can set a digital boundary in the evening, and then share that plan with someone. Like we've said, the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's relational connection. You cannot do this alone. So whatever this plan is, whatever these new rhythms are, share them with somebody. Again, small, repeatable, and realistic. Small rhythms, practice daily, rewire desire. Okay, that's it. Next video, we're going to hit what's next. Video 5, we're going to talk about relapse, shame, and staying in the fight. Freedom's not built in big dramatic moments. It's built in the ordinary days. I'll see you in the next video. Hey, real quick, before you go, don't let this stop at insight. The next step is to continue with the next video in the playlist and stay connected while you do this work. You'll find a link below to join the free school community where you can process this, ask questions, and mainly don't do this alone. So take the next step when you're ready.